Remember the DOGE worker by the name of Big Balls? Well, that's him right there. And he was interviewed with the rest of the team about the first 100 days of DOGE accomplishments. Let's talk about it. How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about the first 100 days of DOGE accomplishments. Now, we all know what DOGE is, headed up by Elon Musk, the brand new government agency, the Department of Government Efficiency. Personally, one of my favorite agencies. They're doing some really good work getting rid of waste, fraud, and abuse. Of course, the mainstream media don't like it. A lot of your politicos don't like it because why? They're not able to get their money, their illicit money they got from you and not a taxpayer. They can't get that anymore, or their friend, relative, loved one, whatever, can't get that money anymore. So they're upset. And what they've been trying to do is discredit Elon Musk and anyone who works at DOGE in general. And it started with Big Balls. Remember CNN having to go on air and explain who this guy is and whatnot?
Yes. So this is a 19-year-old high school graduate who has used the unfortunate nickname Big Balls online. So that would be one way that we could refer to him.
If you ask me, that was quite hilarious to see them have to say that on air, but different story, I digress. What's most important here is what DOGE has done over the first 100 days. And I think that their accomplishments make the previous administration, the Biden administration, look like a bunch of rookies, a bunch of amateurs, a bunch of people that barely have one brain cell combined. Now, before we go any further, let's get straight into the clips. Of course, I will always link to all my clips in full in the description. If you're on IG, Facebook, etc., visit a link in the bio, go to the corresponding article on the website. But without further ado, let's go ahead and roll it.
We checked, is the Small Business Administration giving loans to dead people over the age of 120? The answer was yes, and it was around $330 million in total. So
people with a birthday that could not possibly be real.
Yeah.
Meaning they're over 100, they're 115 years old or older. The oldest living American is 114. So it's safe to say if anybody is in the system as 115 years or older, that is fake.
So let's pause for a second. Now, the mainstream media will say, well, look, Elon, nobody is getting this money who's 115 or older. That's impossible. They're trying to just completely skip past the point or hide the point. The point is that we know it's not possible for people who are over 115 to get this money. But the money is being doled out, so who's getting it? That's where the fraud lies.
Just by sharing a database and looking at social security numbers that showed that at the time of the loan, they had listed as over 115 years old, or actually under 11. We didn't even check for under 18.
Babies and dead
under 11 years old. That's pretty clear.
Babies
right?
and dead people were getting loans.
That was $660 million.
And also people with birth dates in the future.
What does that mean?
Well,
they're not alive yet. Okay, so you got a birthday, October 25th, 2075. Well, clearly that person doesn't even exist at all. They've not been born ever.
In one, I think the birth date. I think in one case was like
fetuses were getting loans.
No, not even. No, really, sort of a you're talking about like your great grandchildren, like with the birth date, like of, I think it was like 2165.
2165, really? For real? That's a birth date that was in the system, and somebody got a loan based on that. That's crazy.
So more than a century from now was the birth date.
George Jetson was getting paid.
Yes, because your birthday is in the future, like the far future, not like next year.
Right.
And this is either fraudulent or we have your birthday wrong.
It's either a typo or someone stealing.
Which is
something's wrong.
Yes,
right.
Yes. You should at least ask which is it.
Exactly. That's pretty common sense to me. Now the next clip talking about taxpayer dollars going to alpaca farming in Peru and improving the marketability of peas in Guatemala. This is again our taxpayer money. You're a U.S. citizen. You pay taxes here. This is our money going toward these things. And you got to ask yourself, do I want my taxpayer money to be spent on that? It's a question. Let's keep on going here.
I think the Inter-American Foundation, IAF, is one of the agencies we visited where, they get $50 million a year, congressional money, to give grants. These are things like, alpaca farming in Peru, improving
That's a real example.
Yes, that's the real description. Improving the marketability of peas in Guatemala.
Really?
Fruit jam. And yes.
What?
And so you might expect, in the private sector, a nonprofit to give, 80 to 90% of their money to grantees. In the case of IAF, that was 58%. So the other half goes towards management, travel.
What we're to find exactly, I mean, to Ethan's example is that even if you agreed with supporting alpaca farmers in Peru, well, actually, most of the money never made it out of D.C. Mm-hmm. It's going into the pockets of people in the neighborhood.
See, that's the whole thing. That's how D.C. is. That's what D.C. is. That's why the Northern Virginia area, Maryland, right around D.C., that's what people do. They get government money and they live high on the hog that way. This is why there's such a fierce kickback, because the people who make that money want to keep making it. And a lot of these people are in high places of power, or they know someone in high places of power. So they're trying to use their muscle to keep getting that illicit money. It's really simple.
What percentage?
I didn't even get to Peru.
Right. So what percentage do you think doesn't even get to the destination it's supposed to?
I believe the GAO estimate, so this is not our estimate, I believe it was on the order of only 10 to 15 cents on the dollar actually gets to the end recipient, whether you agree with that cause or not.
So look, even if you agree with alpaca farming in Peru and you want to support that with taxpayer money, only 15% at best of the money that you spend, because again, it's taxpayer money, only 15% at best of that money actually goes toward the cause.
So they're just stealing the money before it even gets anywhere.
There's layers of stealing. So there's the first layer of stealing, second layer of stealing, third layer of stealing.
Subcontractor.
You start peeling the onion. Yeah, exactly. Contractor, subcontractor. It's like peeling an onion. And then maybe, and sometimes it's zero. Just flat, you get to the bottom of the onion, there's nothing there.
So maybe no one got a sex change in Guatemala.
It's possible that no one got a sex change in Guatemala.
That's the whole point. They will make up this grant, make up some random thing about something that some people, some weirdos would appreciate, that they would support. But ultimately, the money that is set aside for that doesn't even go to that. It just goes into the pockets of the people who wanted it from the beginning. That's Washington, D.C. Now, here we go with the infamous Big Balls. All right, let's get to what he has to say.
Big Balls.
That should be obvious.
Why do they call you Big Balls?
I just said it as my LinkedIn username.
Okay.
Well, people on LinkedIn take themselves super seriously, and they're pretty adverse to risk. And I was like, well, I want to be neither of those things. So I said it, and honestly, I didn't even think anyone would notice.
Yeah.
So what do you
LinkedIn
do?
is so cringe.
What does Big Balls do?
Right now, I'm working on some payment computer stuff. So one of our initiatives is to root out fraud and waste. And to do that, we started looking at the payment computers. And as mentioned earlier, there is no accounting of what payments actually go to in the payment computer. So you look at a specific line item, like $20 million, and you're like, okay, well, what is this money going to? And for the majority of payment systems, it's like, well, we don't really know. And
they're like, what?
It's crazy. And before we continue, these are very smart people. I can tell that young man right there is very smart. The entire table, just smart people. And if you have the USA, you are the president of the USA, you want to bring on the smartest people possible to help the USA succeed. Why would you not want the smartest guys in the world to help you? Maybe, as I was saying earlier, people in DC who get all this money they shouldn't be getting, they don't want them there because they're going to mess up the whole gravy train. It's like, look, man, I got a trip coming up to Monaco with my whole family. and whatnot. And I'm going to need that alpaca money that's not going to alpacas to be in my pocket to pay for my hotel and my yacht rental and everything else. That's the game, but I digress.
That would be the response.
Is this the most basic responses?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the most common response.
What do you say when people just say, I don't know?
Well, it's a huge cause for concern because, like, the upstream thing, which is distributing the money, literally has no checks and no accountability to the actual American taxpayer. So it's a huge vector for fraud, waste, and abuse.
Do these people not respect taxpayer money?
I mean, there's no incentive to if you work in the government. I think the incentives will always decide the outcomes.
Yes.
Very, very well said, young man. Very smart individual. All the DOGE guys, very smart. And as I close, I want to say this. I want to thank the DOGE people for putting themselves on the line. One of the young men had dropped out of Harvard to go work at DOGE. Might not even really be getting paid for real, just kind of volunteering. Even if he is getting paid, think about how people at Harvard are going to look at him. They're not going to be his best friend because he's working with the enemy, so to speak, and Elon Musk and Trump, the Orange Man, and everything else. But as I close, I want to say this. Again, they're doing good work, the Lord's work. I like it, I love it, I want more of it. Shout out to McGraw. This is what I voted for. I voted for this, to have government get under control so the government doesn't try to just totally control us, the American people. But I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? What's your opinion about DOGE and what they've accomplished so far in the first 100 days? Are you satisfied? Are you dissatisfied? Somewhere in between, whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comments below. You guys know where I'm at. I am 100% satisfied. I like what I'm seeing. I like what I'm hearing. And I like how the DC people, the DC elites, the Beltway commuters that make money from all these kind of fake things, I'm glad they're feeling the burn. I'm glad they're feeling the pinch, as they should. I want government to get back to a reasonable level rather than being this monstrosity of looting that it has become. But whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.